back. The South African Revenue Service says it's received just under 6 million tax returns at the end of the tax season for non-provisional taxpayers. Now, at 5.94 million returns, for which the deadline was on Friday, the figure is 11.5% higher than in 2014. With the deadline closed, the Office of the Tax Ombud, under the leadership of retired Judge Bernard Ngoepe, has encouraged taxpayers to know their rights. Well, the Ombud CEO, Advocate Eric Mkhawane, joins me now. Advocate, thanks for coming in.
Thanks, and thanks for having me.
Well, 3 years ago, there was no independent redress for, at least for a channel, for the taxpayer over complaints and resolutions. How much of a difference has this Ombud office made?
The big difference is the fact that now taxpayers may approach the Tax Ombud to ensure that their rights are protected. And if they have unresolved issues with SARS, obviously issues falling within the mandate of the Tax Ombud, they can approach the Tax Ombud and to mediate between SARS and themselves.
The big question with taxpayers is not knowing at which point they do come to your office when they have a complaint. Just take us through that.
All right. First, they must raise an issue with SARS, and SARS must have failed to resolve the issue. So they must have exhausted the SARS internal processes.
Yep.
Now, but there are exceptions to that. There are circumstances where they can come directly to us without having to exhaust the SARS internal processes. An example is where they have compelling circumstances. So the legislation allows taxpayers to approach our offices if they feel they have compelling circumstances. And sometimes, it may feel like a gray area. Do I have compelling circumstances or do I not? Some of the typical examples would be when there's a hardship. The problem is causing hardship to the taxpayer. And if they have to wait for SARS or to raise it with SARS, it may take a while. Under those circumstances, they can approach our offices directly.
Okay, you mentioned time and the duration. What's the lead time when someone brings up an issue with the Tax Ombud?
For us to resolve the matter, obviously we must raise it with SARS. So our target date is 15 working days to try to resolve the issue with SARS or on behalf of the taxpayer or the issue that has been raised. But it's not always the case. There are certain cases that may be more complex and they may require more time. But our overall target is 15 working days.
All right, so your annual report tabled in September, you tell me, the period from April 2014 to March 2015.
Yes.
Typically, what surfaces as probably the most abundant complaints that you deal with?
Well, most of the complaints relate to issues surrounding refunds. It may be a refund where the taxpayer is complaining about the delay or SARS taking too long in refunding the money. It may also range from situations where a taxpayer has furnished SARS maybe with the correct banking details and SARS never updated, and so the refund ended up in the previous banking account, which has since been recycled by the bank, for example. So it varies. So it's refunds, they're almost top on the list, along with the issues relating to the assessments. But the other issues of a general nature, so you have pockets here and there. It may be issues of general service, the people receive from SARS sometimes, and also issues surrounding the correspondence, SARS not responding timeously to the correspondence or requests made by taxpayers to SARS.
All right, so just final observation in that report, 75% of the complaints you receive, you actually rule in favor of the taxpayer. I'm not quite sure if that's impressive or not, depending on which side of the spectrum you have.
Well, it is. It's actually more than 75%, but obviously it shows that taxpayers do have issues, and those taxpayers who have come to our offices, definitely they were not raising frivolous complaints. They were issues had substance, and we investigated. We found out that SARS should make good and resolve a complaint in favor of the taxpayer, yes.
All right, so then that email address, once again, I think it's complaints@taxombud.gov.za.
That's correct.
All right, thanks very much indeed. That's the Ombud CEO, Advocate Eric Mkhawane. Thanks indeed for coming in.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.